Hey, what you reading? I'm the AC, and what I read is Sword Quest of Enigmatic Souls Talking Over Part 2. Gotta get that whole title in there. By Alex Theriot. Hopefully everything I just said was pronounced correctly because my pronunciation still sucks. But I read the first volume about a year ago, and I was a little shaky on if I was going to remember everything because usually I like to reread things when there's been that much time. And I liked the first one. I remember that, and I still remember everything what I liked about it. I just wasn't sure if I remember all the details. And I didn't have my copy on me to reread it because I left it with my brother who is on literally the other side of the country. So, I was going in this, trying my best to remember, and turned out I was fine. So, first off, this book is full of action and it just keeps going and keeps going, but not in an exhausting way. And it still gives time for characters to develop without needing any slow moments. And it's really weird to me because normally I'm not crazy about war arcs or just a lot of action and no development, but this had plenty. I don't know if it's because I was reading this at my own pace, so I could kind of go how fast I wanted and slow down how I wanted, because normally I watch like anime or shows that do this. I've never read a book, so I've never had my own pacing with this. But he also just does a great job with this anyways. He gives flashbacks at good times, unlike just the random times you see in other shows, and they're not long. They just address the point of what the character was wanting to make and make it relevant to the situation they're in, and then get right back to what they were doing. And it's great. I really liked it. If you've seen my other videos, you know pacing is a big deal to me, and I like the overall structure of the book. It gives a good jumping back in point, and then like getting to where the next arc could stop and let you know where it will be going in a structure that makes sense. So yeah, like I said, I wasn't sure if I would remember what would happen, and then it didn't matter because he opens up with the first chapter being like a behind the scenes look at one of the main characters named Mel, one of the three heirs, who's also part of this group of friends, but he's this kind of rich kid and father's the head of security. And it shows this whole time in the first volume he had this plan he's been doing that, you know, he could have hid easily with his connections. And he basically has this plan to kidnap people who could pull this sword, you know, King Arthur style, pulling the sword. He meets this bandit, or gets kidnapped by a bandit, which may have been his plan anyways. And they make this plan to just kidnap people, make them try to force them to pull the sword out. And then, if that doesn't work, then the bandit can just ransom them off, get money. They drug them, but Mel is pretty careful about how he does it. He's not, you know, violent about it. He has a goal, and he doesn't need to do anything past that. And the bandit doesn't seem particularly vicious either. He just wants money. So that's the first chapter, and it really helped without actually going back and recapping everything to still have a chapter that develops more on the story while still reminding me of things that happen, because there's little mentions of events that happened from the first volume while it's going back. So it was a great first chapter just to remind me while also giving the story, which is great. Now, Mel throughout the rest of the book, of course his plan is taking the wrong turn. He does start getting more desperate with it. It turns out the main hero of the story, Cedric, is able to pull the sword. Mel wants to take the sword, even if he has to take it from Cedric, and hand it over because he thinks that'll stop the war. Now his heart's in the right place. He talks a lot about he doesn't want his friends hurt. He doesn't want anyone hurt. And it just doesn't work out. And like, his plan is flawed to begin with, because they've been at war with the Red Wolves for a long time. It's hard to believe just handing a sword over, a weapon over someone is just going to stop a war. You think somebody grabs a weapon, they're just going to keep going. So it's kind of flawed, but his heart was in the right place. Now, another one of the friends of the three is Quintel. He's, you know, a lovable character. He's always cheery. He's kind of, don't want to say hick, but he kind of has, you know, that kind of lower status, the poorer status, I guess. But he's always cheery. He's always raring to go. He has cool development, mainly just fighting side. You don't see much of his background, but you get to see him develop as a fighter, as a leader. And he ends up fighting and kind of taking out the Schlanks heir. Is that what he said? Yeah, sure. And I don't remember if you see what happens to the heir after that, but he was pretty proud of himself. He almost gets kidnapped by Hastur at the end also, but then his family comes and saves him. But Quentin is mainly more the action scene. Didn't have too much development other than that. Maybe we'll see more, because he definitely shown he's leader capable, but then all three of them kind of are anyways. And he was one of the heirs, so you know he's going to be pretty good anyways. Now, to get to the main character is Cedric. He pulled the sword, and he doesn't want to give it up, of course, because that doesn't make any sense, and he realizes that. Luckily, more friends come up to help him escape, help the others fight. So he runs off to a volcano, and he ends up fighting a Cyclops. And it turns out the sword is God in him. He sees some kind of little message inscribed with the sword. You could say the sword is giving him a quest, which literally didn't realize the name of the book and the fact that the sword was giving him a quest until I was thinking about what I was going to say in this video. Yeah, now it makes so much sense. Anyways, back on it. Hastur the bandit follows him up. They take out the Cyclops. He uses a pitchfork to open some hole in the wall, finds some more stuff. He runs back into Mel. He's like, you need to give up the sword. He's like, no. And Cedric's like, I'm going to leave the island and try to get everyone else to follow me and go do what the sword keeps telling me to do now, because that's my goal, and I obey the said sword because the sword is important, I guess. But it's interesting because if I remember correctly, and if I understood it correctly, this stuff, these quests were kind of given by the last heir of the sword, maybe previous ones before. I'm not exactly sure on how these swords are working. Maybe that's supposed to be a mystery. Maybe that's why I'm not sure. But no, that's going to be definitely interesting to see, because you see him still in a boat. Two more characters I don't remember where they came from. I don't remember from the first book. They might have been there. I'm bad at names, so but yeah, it'll be interesting to see him just meet up with two more random people. You know, not that wasn't in the book previously in this volume. And then meets up with them and is like, okay, we're going on a quest on this boat that we stole. And that's where Volume 3 seems to be leading. Mainly because the very end he says, to be continued in Volume 3. So, I'm very looking forward to that. And overall, these three characters, I love their dynamic. I like their friendship, but their rivalry also. I liked seeing how they're going to be growing. You can already see how all of them are taking leadership, even though they're still supposed to just be students. But overall, you see this like master plan coming together by their headmaster, their grandmaster, whatever his actual title is. So they may just be getting manipulated without realizing it. I don't know, more mysteries for the future that we get to see come up. And I'm looking forward to it. Now, those are the good things. A quick review, what I thought of the characterization. I loved it all. There was a little weirdness because I have to give, a little bit of not as positive review, because there's always something that you could work on. And that is Al and Hydric. It gives them a backstory. I don't remember these two characters either, but it gives their backstory, and it was a good way to compare them to their older generation, and this newer generation with Cedric in them. And I was fine with the story. I was fine with all that. It gives me more reasons to care about these characters, especially because they're in the middle of a battlefield. It's good to remember there's these other important people actually fighting on battle, because then sometimes you get these stories and they focus on these new guys and they make them seem much more powerful. This does a great with Alan Hydrick and the other characters that come in to remember, yeah, there's still stronger people. There's still these great knights and warriors, fighters out there that were already here before. The problem I had with it is the way this backstory gets brought up is between these twins, Tess and Ongo, while they're running out to try to find the other three, the Quintal, Cedric, and Mel. And they're like Tess is telling the story to Ongo, but it seems like he would have already known this story. It's not like this stuff just happened. So it's kind of unnatural the way this gets brought up. I like the part where she compares that to what's happening now, but the way they told the actual story seemed kind of weird. Maybe if there would have been a new character or someone who didn't know the story, but then that also wouldn't make sense to throw a random character in it. Now, like, it's not bad. It's just kind of stuck out as odd to me as the way it was told. One other thing is it was hard for me to grasp the size of the area this volume takes place and the time it takes place. It seems like a lot is happening. I don't know how much time is going. Is this all in one night? Has it been evening? Is it now morning? Is it daylight? I'm not sure how much time has passed. I'm not sure how much area they actually go. There's a whole lot of running. They go to a volcano, to the beach, from a forest, and I don't know how big the area is. It's hard for me to imagine that. And I think that's just due to my own lack of imagination or ability to actually visualize what I'm reading. But I don't know. I don't know. It could be maybe written a little better. Hi everyone, DAC here, and this is just a little rant warning. What I'm about to say has nothing to do with this book. It is just something I have seen other authors say that bothers me. Maybe more background into the actual area, more scenes being drawn out. I know a lot of authors like to let the reader visualize what they want. I'm not that good at that, at being the reader to visualize. I like for them to set it up for me so I don't have to put any work into it. I just want to read it and enjoy it. Because, not to knock other authors, but I totally am going to. If you're saying the reader has to do the work in order to read it, that's lazy as an author. No, you're the one creating the world. You shouldn't put the responsibility on the reader. If a reader wants to disregard what you're saying and imagine it how she wants to, that's on them. They can do that. Okay, this has nothing to do with his story. I'm just saying, I like a lot of details. And he gives plenty of details and characters, maybe a little more into the actual scenery. Who knows? But, besides that, okay, rant over. Like I said, really love this volume. I really like the first one. I like the pacing, the action, the story development with the characters. It was all great. I just, you have to be a little nitpicky about some stuff. Otherwise, people think you're biased if you don't give. And, if you enjoy something, you're going to be biased towards it anyways. But anyways, what did you think? Have you read either of these volumes? Did I make it sound interesting at all? I know reading these is a lot more interesting than hearing someone talk about them. But I try my best. But if you like what I said, like this video. If you want to see me review and talk about more books, more of all kinds of nerdy stuff, then subscribe to my channel, because I got plenty more coming. But until then, thank you for watching. I'm DAC. Bye.